Warning, F-bombs are armed and may be dropped. There's an episode of Star Trek Next Generation from Season 5, Episode number 11, called Hero Worship. Not going to get into all of the ugly details, but they find a ship that's been destroyed and only one survivor. Flash forward to basically the end of the episode. There's this, energy wave thing. It's about to hit the ship. So they raise their shields. Standard operating procedure, right? And it hits them hard. So they add more shields. And it hits them harder. They add more shields, and it hits them really hard. The one survivor says that's what they kept talking about on the other ship. I don't remember her name. More shields, more shields, more shields. Data sits down and he punches some buttons, and he realizes there's a problem. There's a real big problem. He turns around and he screams, "Lower," it says, "Lower the shields." Are you crazy? But they do, and they survived. Because the shields were making the energy wave more intense. Gun control works pretty much exactly the same way. You add more gun control, and what happens? Each and every time, the problem gets worse, not better. There's actually a term for this. It's exponential equation in the negative, I believe, which is where you put a negative exponent in an equation, and the higher the exponent, the faster you drop. Well, guess what? This is exactly the same thing. Gun control doesn't reduce death and suffering. It makes it worse. But it makes those who enacted it think they're doing better. This will make a few people angry, but the basic concept of the National Firearms Act, the Hughes Amendment, those would stay in place. If you want an assault weapon or a machine gun, you'll have to go through a few more hoops. And yes, your basic weapons would have to be firearms would have to be registered. By the way, you can't register a home build. The ATF actually does not have a mechanism to do so, because as they themselves would very bluntly put it, how can they ever know? That's the reason why ATF doesn't register home builds. They can't possibly know unless you tell them. So, what's the point? There's a couple other reasons, but short version is you can't register a home build. This process would be vastly simplified. $200 for Class 3 license, and you have to do it every year, which is what I've been hearing a lot. No, that's ridiculous at every level. And for those of you who are about to say registration leads to confiscation, well, you'd be right if it weren't for the fact that the law says you have to have, right? And then they can't confiscate it because you're actually legally required to have this thing. It's like they can't confiscate your health insurance right now because you're required to have health insurance. Great irony of the universe. The thing that the left or leftists so depend on to disarm everybody will now be one of the things that destroys their efforts. That's kind of funny, right? Keep calm and mandatory carry on. Go see Alita. Yes, for real. I'm not joking. Go see Alita.